Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Freshwater Yankee podcast. My name is Wendell Riley, and today we have a very exciting conversation. I'm sitting here with someone who I consider to be a friend and a very respected colleague. She is the Provost and Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs at LSU Shreveport, and also someone who I always feel like I can go toe-to-toe with on matters of film and literary works. She is, of course, Helen Taylor, Dr. Helen Taylor.
Correct.
Why are you looking at me like that?
Well, I was waiting for you to get it right, Wendell. So.
Well, okay. Welcome, Helen.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm thrilled to have you. So, of course, this is only the second episode of our podcast, and what we do on this show is we explore borders, crossing borders, both literal and figurative, and what it's like to make yourself at home in a new environment. I think you have a slight head start on me in terms of making a home here in Shreveport, Louisiana.
Yeah, thanks for pointing out.
Like 2 years. I meant like 2 years.
Yeah. Let's go with 2.
Let's go with 2 years. And that's actually where I want to jump in. Clearly from your accent, you were not born and raised here in Louisiana.
No, I am from London, South London, although my English family will tell you I've picked up a decided Shreveport accent.
I find that very hard to believe.
It's all relative, isn't it?
It is definitely all relative. So what brought you to Shreveport?
Well, I don't know how much time we have here, but I came to the U.S. to go to graduate school, and obviously didn't really turn around and go home like I was supposed to. I don't mean that I came illegally or anything. What I mean is that having finished the PhD, I got a job at LSU in Shreveport.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So what is your field of study?
It's medieval literature, specifically medieval women's devotional literature, which is a really big seller, lines out the door.
That is a high demand field of study.
Well, I mean, I try and make it fun. There's a lot of laughs.
Absolutely. So you are a provost. What does a provost do?
The provost at a university is the chief academic officer. So I am charged with oversight of all the classes, all the curricula, all the degree programs, putting in for new degree programs. I also technically hire and fire the faculty, make sure they're doing what we're hiring them to do. So it's a lot, really.
Okay. And you also teach classes still?
Yeah, I like to teach at least one class a year. The provost tells the faculty, to do this and that, and I want to make sure that I'm doing it too. So sometimes I have to have strange conversations with myself at faculty senate. But, the faculty need to know that I'm in the trenches with them, and that all the changes we make to, what needs to go on as syllabus, that kind of thing, that those, I'm experiencing those too.
Right. But you actually also enjoy teaching, right?
Oh, yeah. And I mean, it's changed so much, obviously, in 30 years. But yeah, I mean, that's I don't want to say it's the most rewarding part of my day, but it really is, because, teaching students is why the whole university is here, and serving our community with, getting people from poverty to prosperity in some cases, because a college degree can do that for you.
Absolutely. So let's take it back a little bit, back to when you were in London. What was young Helen like? And why did she want to pursue an education abroad? It's it's a long time ago. It was a very different economic kind of climate. And I think I thought, as I was coming close to graduating with my bachelor's degree, that getting a graduate degree in the States was going to broaden my education in all sorts of ways. I mean, travel is an education in itself, right? So it's not just about the curriculum or the courses or the degree that you're taking.
going to a different country and seeing the world from a different perspective, different cultural perspective, I thought was hugely important. And clearly I enjoyed it so much that I stayed here.
So did you have a moment where you were like, yes, I'm staying, or was it this sort of because like for me, I didn't really have a plan of what I was going to do after graduation. I came here to study as well, to broaden my horizons, all that good stuff. But also, like, my friends had left me behind. I was back in Trinidad working and going to the beach every weekend and going to the bar every night. And I was like, this is way too much fun. I want to be miserable for the rest of my life. So I want to go somewhere else.
That's a very grown-up decision.
Well, yes, exactly.
Yeah.
But to that point, I mean, I really had no idea what I was going to do. I had this loose dream of working in advertising to try to kind of blend my creative juices with whatever brain cells I had in my head that I could use for some type of academic success. But there really never was a moment where I was like, yes, I'm staying. For me, it just kind of happened, and I just built a life here. Never ended up working in advertising in the way that I thought. Life just sort of took over. So did you have a similar thing?
Yeah, yes, I completely recognize that. I mean, I hesitate to use the word drifting, but there's a certain security to being in academia, which means you can drift, as I did, from a master's degree in Massachusetts to a PhD program in Connecticut to an assistant professor job in Shreveport, although that was a huge cultural shift, but I'm sure we'll get to that. But yeah, I think once I was into the PhD program, I realized, if you're going to do a PhD, you need to really be thinking about an academic career.
Yeah.
But I thought about that, and then I thought there are so many more universities. I mean, the US is such a huge country that, frankly, my options were much wider to stay in the US. My 88-year-old mother is still waiting for me to come home, by the way, and drops hints about retirement in the UK and so forth. And I think I'm a firm fixture here now. But the door's open.
Sure, yeah. So has she just kind of always been dropping hints along the way, or did you ever have like a sit down where she's like, I want you to move back, and you were like, nope, I'm probably staying here?
No, I mean, there were hints along the way, and she has reminded me over the last 30 something years, that you said when we put you on that plane in Heathrow, in the 80s, you said you were coming back. And I mean, I don't know what to say to that.
Yeah, so my aunt tells a similar story. So when I was in Maryland, so I was doing my undergraduate degree in Baltimore, and I was staying with my aunt in D.C., and she tells the story of me like standing, crying, saying like I couldn't wait to leave as soon as I was done with school. I honestly don't remember ever saying that, but clearly I was in an emotional state, so I can't be trusted with my recollection of the event. And then, all of a sudden, 20-something years had passed, and here I am still. So.
Well, and I suspect that, like me, a romantic relationship was part of the decision. I mean, I'm having never been to the American South. I married a guy from effectively Alabama, and we moved to Shreveport, and he said it would be great. And in those days, pre-internet, I thought Shreveport was on the Gulf Coast. So I thought I was going to be, drinking little drinks with umbrellas in and lying on the beach. And then we got to Shreveport. Actually, we stopped the first night in Bossier City, and it wasn't quite like I'd imagined.
No, and you probably have eaten way more crawfish than shrimp from the Gulf Coast in your time here.
Yeah, I try not to eat either of those things, frankly, for all sorts of reasons, which we won't go into here. But yeah, it was a huge culture shock. Let me just say that, because I spent 6 years in the Northeast in New England.
It's very different.
And I thought, because I wasn't used to such a big country. England is effectively a tiny country. Mm-hmm. And while it has regional and cultural differences, they're not as huge as they are here. And so I remember we drove down with a U-Haul van, pulling a car behind. And as we got, the first stop was in Virginia, and I noticed I couldn't really understand what people were talking about. And I didn't recognize the food,
Yeah.
and the chicken salad in the sandwich tasted different because it had sweet relish in it. And, the further south we got, the more, and I remember saying to my husband, yeah, I don't think so. But, it got better, but it was a huge shock for me.
Yeah. It's interesting because for us in Trinidad, we travel a lot. As a group collectively, we have, because of the way the diaspora has sort of fanned out into Europe, the Americas, and the Caribbean, we often travel to the U.S. to shop, to vacation, but it's typically Miami, New York, some of Texas, but predominantly it is an East Coast bias. So my view of America was very much New York City. Like, that is how I saw America. But when you come to a place like Shreveport, Louisiana, it is a very, very different thing. And I think that's something that people underestimate about the United States, how different regions are. And how quickly things change as you drive on these interstates.
Well, that's right. And places like Miami and New York City are also used to people from other countries, whereas I still run into people and I forget I have this stupid accent, and I start talking to people and I can see from the expression on their face, they're not hearing what I'm saying. They are processing the fact that my accent is different. So I have learned not to say, hello, I'm Helen, because they won't get that. I have to say, hello, how are you, blah, blah, blah. And then I say, I'm Helen, because they'll lose that. When I talk to people from Shreveport, they often haven't traveled, certainly outside this country, and often they haven't traveled very far, certainly not to the coasts, to the east and west coast. So they do find me to be a bit of a different kind of, it's unusual. It's interesting for them. I do find myself reminding students who say, well, you're from a foreign country you don't know. And I am now able to say, well, actually, I've been here longer than you.
Yeah, I get the the two questions is always, where are you from? And then I explain that to them. And then the second question is, well, why would you come to a place like Shreveport? And that has been my experience for the last 16 years. And it's a weird thing to be in a place where walking into any room, you are likely to be the only person to be from where you are from.
Absolutely. And I think for me, working here at a university where we've got students and faculty from all over the world, it's a little different. But certainly, if I went to the Robinson and I was hanging out and talking to people, I would probably be the only English person in the room. And maybe the only, apart from you, the only international person.
Yeah, for sure. So you got here, you started teaching when you got here?
Yeah, I was teaching part-time in grad school too. And then when I moved to Shreveport, I got a full-time job teaching in the English department here. And so I always had to kill a lot of people to get to this job. But no, that's not true at all. I started as a junior faculty member, and now I'm the chief academic officer.
Gotcha. Yeah. I mean, Shreveport obviously was much different back then compared to the way it is now. Or is it, yeah.
But I think, social media, for example, has exposed certainly a younger generation to media, not just films and so forth, but, TikTok videos from all over the world. So I feel like there's more experience of different cultures, at least through social media.
Yeah.
People are always saying to me, oh, yeah, I watched this show on the BBC about this, blah, blah, blah. So they wouldn't have done that 30 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, and just media in general, because like for me, when I came to the U.S., it was really hard to get any soccer. I have to say soccer because we're in the U.S., but what we call football, to see any football games. And now U.S. viewers and people back in England, they complain all the time. Like, you can watch more football in America than you can anywhere else because we have access to the Premier League and La Liga.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, if cricket could just catch on, that would be better.
It would be better, but that's a whole other show. A 6-day or a 4-day show.
Right.
Thank you. So after you were here for a while, you did a radio show for some time, right?
Well, I did. And, this is bringing back memories because I had a 30-minute show on Red River Radio called Prism. And the shtick was I was the prism that reflected the culture back. So even though I'd actually been in the country for 20 years at that point, my sort of persona was that I just arrived and I didn't understand why do people in Shreveport not have turn signals on their cars? Because I never see them use them, that kind of thing. And then I asked this guy in a restaurant once about crawfish and was it an insect? And I mean, he just thought I was this poor foreign person who didn't understand that crawfish was not an insect. But I mean, I would ask these kinds of questions with this sort of faux naive style and get a lot of good. I was trying to get people to think about what our cultures mean and how much we take for granted about about our own culture. We sort of insular in many ways, and so that was the fun of the radio program. Was this English person who was wandering around wide-eyed, not understanding things.
That is very cool, and I hope you don't ever sue me for this podcast because it seems like a proto version of Freshwater Yankee because it's essentially the same types of exploration that I hope to do with this show, and a lot of it is selfishly, it's a personal journey for me, but I hope to also just hold that mirror up to people and have them look at themselves and the way that they live so that we can see how many of the things that, even though there are very unique differences that we have based on the region that you are from, there are tons of similarities as well.
Absolutely right, because you're not pretending to be an idiot, are you?
Well, I don't have to pretend. That's my trick.
But you're exactly right, Wendell. I mean, I think it's this whole business of holding a mirror up. I once gave a graduation talk, and I was telling the students that in order to understand who you are and where you're from, you have to go away from it, so that you can come back, but you come back with a renewed perspective, a renewed understanding about who you are and where you're from, because you're looking at it sort of objectively instead of subjectively. You got to look at it from the outside instead of from the inside. So that's what you're doing here.
Yeah, well, on a good day, I hope to do that. So thank you for that vote of confidence. So you mentioned, accents are like. There will always be a thing for us, right?
Yeah.
As they say here, just because it is the clearest immediate indicator that we are not from Shreveport.
Yes, and I like to joke that I go home once a year to refresh my accent, if it softens around the edges too much. But I also think, I'm just going to be honest about this, my accent, your accent are assets in a way because they are markers of difference.
For sure.
And people have this weird idea that a British accent somehow conveys the fact that we're somehow more classy or more intelligent or something.
1,000,000%. That's why every fantasy show has British accents.
Yeah, usually the villains, though, right? They're usually the villains.
Well, they're the smartest people in the room, right? Twisting their mustaches.
Yeah, Scar from The Lion King, and who else am I thinking about? There's all kinds of UK. It's just a trope. But it has been an asset to me in that sense, I can cover up all kinds of idiocies by sounding like I know what I'm talking about.
Absolutely. Yeah. Listen, if I need to win over a room, I just, harden my T's,
Oh, I've heard you do it too.
Yeah. So it's interesting. Okay. So I do want to talk about this because I have sort of had to reclaim my accent in my time here. It is a thing that that I have struggled with in some ways, because I have two parts of the way I speak. I have an accent, but I also have a dialect, and my dialect is very, very deep, and it uses a lot of broken English, and sometimes words from different languages, and it's sort of a soft patois, but not really. It has a little bit of that in there. So when I came to the U.S. as a young man, instead of trying to slow down and sort of reinterpret things and then speak this, so to essentially translate to a slower, more pronounced Trinidadian accent, what I did was started mimicking American accents. And so I have this weird sort of non-regional specific American accent that I fall into. Because to me, and this was sort of the crutch for me, because as someone who likes to tell jokes, I always like to tell jokes, and making people laugh is like one of my favorite things. And so I had trouble telling jokes, because when I told them, people wouldn't get what I was saying. And that was really tough for me. Like there's a lot of insecurity there, because humor is in a lot of ways sort of an emotional currency for me, right? Or a social currency for me. And so my fallback was slipping into this pseudo-American accent. And I get made fun of it back home. Like, we make fun of people who do that back home. And I'm sure it's the same thing with your mom talking, saying that you have an American accent, which for the life of me, I can't hear it. I mean, you sound very British to me. What was your experience like? Have you ever had to sort of reckon with your own accent, or have you just sort of, you've had that confidence throughout that,
Well, I mean, as I said earlier, I think my accent has softened, and British people, accent is a social marker, and we're very conscious of class. I'm just going to say class distinctions. Mm-hmm. So we sort of tend to be very aware of our accents, because right now I'm speaking to you in a rather correct way.
Right.
But if I were with my friends down in the pub, right, I'd say, I'll be talking a bit like this. I mean, not really, but I mean, right. my natural accent is somewhere between the two.
Yeah.
I'm very conscious of, this is going to sound so nerdy, of the difference in vowel sounds. So I have never in 30 years been able to say y'all without people laughing.
Yes.
Because I can't get the vowel sound.
It's tough.
And then the Mexican sandwich, I'm going to call it that. I either say taco or taco. I can't get that middle vowel sound.
Taco.
Taco. I don't know how to say it. You see, and then I get all anxious and sweating over that word, and I try to avoid it, which is why I called it a Mexican sandwich, which is not right either. No, it's definitely not right. And I can't ask for a glass of water.
Oh my God, the water thing.
It's terrible.
I confuse people.
Yeah.
May I have a glass of water, please? That's, for some reason, that is the thing that locks up people's brains more than anything else in Shreveport.
And I try to say water, and then they're like, what?
It sounds weird saying it.
And it's creepy, me saying it in that kind of way. So I've had to have people order for me as if I was, a phasic or something. I mean, when my daughter was younger and in high school, and she wanted to, sorry, Claire, eat at drive-thrus a lot, she would have to lean across from the passenger side to order at the window because they couldn't understand what I was asking for.
I feel that 1,000,000%. Like, the water thing is just, and so a Trinidadian accent is this hybrid accent, but there's certainly European elements, lots of British elements. The way we pronounce, like, what I say is the hard T and the soft R at the ends of words. We don't say beer, we say bear, right? Or I'm sitting in a chair, So if I say 3 chairs, you you could kind of make that inference. But if I say 3 cheers to an American, they're like, what are you saying?
Yeah.
And then I'm like, CHEER. And they're like, oh, cheer. And I'm like, yeah, cheer.
Well, I named my daughter Claire, which in London we would say Claire.
Yeah.
And I had to say Claire to Siri and Alexa. I have to say call Claire, and I mean, well, I was once texting you in the car. Do you remember? And I was trying to use the word donor, DONOR, and the voice to text kept saying donut.
Yes.
And it was like, I'm bringing 3 donuts. No, I'm not bringing donuts. And I'm screaming at the thing and swearing and so forth.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but for you, it's the T and the R. For me, it's the vowel sounds.
Yeah.
It just doesn't get my vowel sounds.
Yeah. I have this ongoing thing with Siri. Like, people who I text with when I'm driving, do talk to text, they know when I'm driving versus when I'm writing, because like proper grammar and punctuation use is very important to me, right? And I feel kind of like a jackass when I do talk, and I know it's coming out like garbage on the back end, and then I have to put this disclaimer in, and so I make it into a joke. But you know, and with people that I know, it's fine. It's just like an in joke. It's a running gag. But there are times where I have to like sit in the car and do a fake Southern accent so that Siri would understand me and convey the message that I'm trying to convey.
Exactly right. And it's embarrassing, and I only do it in the car. I would never do it, in front of people. Right. I mean, I can't do an American accent. I'm just ashamed. I mean, it's awful.
Yeah. So let's talk about, why is that? What does it feel like when you try to do an American accent?
It feels like I'm faking, trying to be something I'm not. And it also, so let me back up a little bit, and you may have this experience too. I have had the experience where people, sometimes they don't even realize they're doing it, but they put on a fake British accent when they're talking to me.
Oh my God, yes.
And then that is so frankly hideous, and it's awful and just annoying. And so I'm acutely aware that if I try to put on an American accent, that they may receive it the way I receive the fake British accent.
That's fair. But I will say, I don't think people do it consciously. I think it's an unconscious reaction, because I have similar situations where if I pronounce a word that has a T in the middle of it, and instead of saying, like butter, I say butter. And they respond to me with the word butter in the sentence. Sometimes they would pronounce it the way I pronounced it, and it grates on. It feels weird, like it changes the dynamic of the conversation immediately, right?
Those are the worst, most hideous conversations. I had a conversation the other day, and I was using the word data, D-A-T-A, and the person I was talking to, who's from here, was saying, I think, data or something like that. So then you have to make the choice, just as you've described. Yeah. Do I swap to saying data? Do they swap to saying data? Or do we have this bizarro conversation where we're using what are effectively 2 different words?
Yes.
It's just, I mean, these are the things. It's awful.
Yeah, well, I mean, I try to just take it in stride and sort of poke fun at it. Because, again, I don't think anyone's ever trying to make fun of my accent when they do that.
Well, I just try to make fun of mine. I mean, you're luckier than me then.
Well, I mean, look, I get the occasional, hey man, how's it going, man? You get the villains.
And I get the Mary Poppins, Dick Van Dyke.
Right,
hello, governor.
We get the laid back, usually like high on weed stoners who's like everything going to be Irie man. Like that is all we get, and this weird pseudo non-specific Caribbean accent that is from nowhere. Well, I'm sure it's the same thing when you hear an American trying to do a British accent in a show. Yeah,
but so see the complete polar opposites here. You get the chilled out, everything's great, fun personality. I get the stick up, the uptight. So it's not the same thing.
Fair enough. So but like you mentioned earlier, there's an advantage to being the one with an accent.
Yeah, I
in
mean,
the
it
room.
can be an asset.
Yeah.
Yes, because you're different, and hopefully you're cool, or maybe you're cool. I'm not. But,
No. I mean, you rock up with that British accent. People like they listen. What you get is attention.
Yes, that's right.
They listen to you when you speak, right? And I think that's a big deal, especially for someone who, like I know you value language, you value oral and written communication and the power of that. So the ability to command attention the second you say something is a big deal. Like it's something that I sort of relish as a superpower here in the South.
Yes, I once had a meme that I shared some years ago that had a picture of an English bobby, and it said, "My accent brings all the boys to the yard." I don't know if that was cool or not.
No, it is absolutely true. I mean, listen, and even as someone from the Caribbean, I love hearing a British accent. But I love regional American accents as well, but different regions have different there are different like social cues that are assigned to them, or again, like you said, going back to that societal strata where depending on your accent, people assume that you're smarter or less intelligent.
You asked me to come and talk about Downton Abbey, and not because I think you thought I knew anything about it, but because of my accent.
Well, there's that, but I also know that you know a lot about it because you very much you think about this stuff very deeply, and and culture and class and all of that stuff.
Well, that's true. And in fact, what I talked about, which I'm sure wasn't quite what you had intended, but because I'm interested in culture and class and the way accent, and Lady Grantham saying, "What is a weekend?" and those sort of distinctive, pointed differences in that show. Yes, I'm interested in that.
Yeah. And listen, it works out because you had a captive audience. I mean, the everyone in the room was locked in, and I think it was the perfect precursor to watching a film like Downton Abbey. So, I mean, it's the same thing when I get up in front. I say this. I mean, everyone who knows me knows this. When I have to do heels and reels, and I have a room full of 88 Southern women, I turn the accent up because it's part of the experience for them. It's fun, I get to be a little bit of a curiosity in the room. And
so that's interesting because I feel the same thing. So what we're saying is that our cultural persona, our accents and so on, become performative. I mean, I'm aware that I could become a caricature of myself.
For sure.
You see what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely. I absolutely lean into it. And it is performative. It's not insincere. I think it's just a, sort of a slightly turned up to 11 a little bit,
Nice Spinal Tap reference.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
But Wendell, I mean, if there's any kind of advocacy or anything that I would want to engage in here, it's to say that, as I said earlier, that travel is hugely important. I mean, we're from different countries, so we know the value of travel. But I mean, working here at the university, if there's one thing I want for our students, it's travel. And I don't necessarily mean going to Trinidad or the UK. I mean going to the West Coast or going to Canada or going to New York City or even going to Chicago, because travel, as I said earlier, is just so important in terms of how we develop who we are and how we think about the world and how we think about other people.
I completely agree with you. And it's this this unexpected thing that happened for me is that I feel like I was able to define myself more because I was not in my comfortable environment or in a place where I grew up. It actually pushed me a little bit to look at myself. But I do the same thing when I travel to other states. Just even for a few days, I like to pay attention to the way people live and the way like houses are constructed, the way towns are laid out, different things like that. And it makes a huge difference. It changes your perspective in very subtle ways, but I think in very meaningful ways.
Oh, Absolutely. And I think it makes interacting with other people a more, not easier, but certainly a more comfortable kind of exchange. Because, when you haven't, I mean, I see this in some of our students, they come as freshmen and they've never been anywhere.
Yeah.
And they're frightened, literally frightened by unknown people and unknown things and
Sure.
unknown experiences. And I think part of our goal as educators is to sort of unlock that, to sort of spring them from that trap and say, it's great, it's fine, go out, talk to different people, travel to different places. I mean, that's such a life-enriching experience. And if we all had that experience, we could interact with each other more easily.
So I want to touch on something that you mentioned earlier, and it has to do with the access that technology gives to people today. I mean, like for me, I spend time away from America every single day, right? Because I'm very sensitive to the political winds and how that impacts us socially. I mean, especially living in the South, we're sort of kind of forced to actually reckon with a lot of social issues all day, every day. So my way of escaping is that as soon as I get home, I turn on BBC Radio, BBC Sport, and I listen to programs, maybe an hour and a half or more a day. So I essentially get plugged into British culture, and I get mad when they talk about the NFL or they talk about politics in the US. I turn it off and I switch to something else because I want to escape, right? And it allows me to, it's to support my team up the Chelsea. But I think kids nowadays, they have the opportunity to do that. And so are you seeing that with students where they feel more comfortable engaging with other cultures? And do you think it's a meaningful way to do that?
I do think it's a meaningful way to do that. I mean, as we've said, I think travel is the best thing, but exploring the social media or the TV or films, whatever kind of media it is, of other countries, other cultures, is the next best thing.
Yeah.
And as I've said, so many of my students talk about, I saw this BBC show and I thought of you, and they all talk like you, and of course they don't, because they're probably from Liverpool or somewhere.
Sure.
I don't sound like that. But I'd rather that they explored the UK through media, through even through social media, because so many of the people who put together TikToks, I mean, they go viral globally, not just in their own countries.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's good. I think that's a good access point to a culture.
Absolutely. And it's unfiltered in many ways, right?
Yeah.
Because it's not done through the lens of, say, an American writer or an American director. You can plug directly into the source material.
Well, and so I'll give you a brief example. For some reason, I don't cook a lot these days, but I do like watching people cook. I mean, not British Bake Off, which I don't enjoy, but just short reels. Anyway, there was a British person making what they were calling flapjacks. Mm-hmm. So a flapjack in England is a sweet treat made of oatmeal and brown sugar, and it's sort of like a Rice Krispie treat, but with oatmeal, if that makes any sense. They're really good with a cup of tea.
Sure.
So this person was making these flapjacks, and all these Americans were commenting, that's not a flapjack.
Right.
A flapjack is made, and it's a sort of what I would call a pancake.
Yeah.
And some of the Americans were insisting that the British person was completely wrong and clueless and didn't know what they were doing. And so my point here is that here you've got this cultural intersection where you've got one word that means two different things, and they were arguing about it. But at the end, everyone realized, we're two different cultures and using the same word for two different things.
And that's okay.
Exactly.
That's allowable.
Exactly. So there is where social media is teaching the people in the US about what happens in the UK and vice versa. It's a good teachable moment.
Sure. Yeah, and I don't want to get too much off on a tangent, but I think it's one of the things about Gen Z and Gen Alpha that people really underestimate is their curiosity about the world. I think they have a healthy cynicism about a lot of things, which is great, right? But I think they also are very much interested in the world around them because they understand that they have access to it. And they're like, why wouldn't I? Versus my parents and my grandparents who only want to talk to or listen to people who look and sound exactly like them.
Yeah, so that's a good thing. So, I mean, we can knock social media for all sorts of reasons, but that aspect of it is really good.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, listen, we're getting close to wrapping up this episode. But I do want to, this is kind of the little fun section where I just
What
kind of.
do you mean? I thought the rest of it was a fun section.
This
is
is
the fun
this
section?
is more fun.
Oh, more fun. Double plus funner.
Funner
is good.
Okay. Is that a real? No, it's not a real.
No, not even in the UK.
Yeah, or not even in Trinidad. So what do you love about the U.S.? What is the thing that keeps you here, other than career and and love and your daughter and all of that?
Oh, you mean okay? So I can discount all of that.
Yeah.
This is a country which provides so much opportunity for people. So I love that about this country. I love being in the South in the spring, where in my home country everyone's still all wrapped up in woolies.
Yeah.
And it's freezing cold. And even in February, and you can, the sun comes out and you see the flowers starting to bloom. And that's still a magical, even after decades here, it is a magical feeling for me in March or whenever it is, when you can feel spring is, because British people are very attuned to the weather, right? I mean, we talk about weather all the time.
Yeah.
We have 50 words for rain and so forth. So spring in the South is a really important, it's important for me. I don't enjoy July and August quite as much.
No, they're a bit of a drag. But I take the heat because you get long days. Like, that is not a thing in the Caribbean. Like, a day, 6 o'clock, no matter what time of year, it's about a half an hour variance in terms of when the sun sets. But here in the U.S., walking outside at 8 p.m. and it's like bright, like that is the novelty of that has not worn off.
So the U.S. is in the middle, because if I'm going to, I'll go see my parents in late December after the holidays. It will not get light until 9 o'clock in the morning. And it starts getting dark at 2:30, 3 p.m. And you see everyone rushing to walk their dogs at 2, because you look outside and it's going to get dark. It's going to be dark in half an hour. So, I mean, incredibly long days. When I was in college, we'd go to the pub and get kicked out at 11:30, and it would be broad daylight.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's so the different, completely
Absolutely.
opposite from your experience.
Yeah, and I love seasons too. I mean, the changing of the seasons, it gives a rhythm to the year that is very different. Yeah. Trinidad, we have rainy season, dry season. That's it.
But the other thing that seasons does is it reinforces hope, because you know that spring will always follow winter, and that's a wonderful. That's why I like the spring so much.
Yeah, and it helps when you're going into winter. Because I do this thing where I'm very good with like delayed gratification. So when the days start getting shorter, I start thinking about, well, spring is around the corner. We just have to get through winter.
It's a promise that will be fulfilled.
For sure, for sure. So what do you miss about home?
I miss the landscape. I miss the green rolling hills and the little cottages in the towns. And I also miss a pint of proper beer served at an appropriate temperature.
Yeah.
I do not like my beer served in a frosty mug, because you can't taste a thing. So I like someone to pull me a pint in a pub, and you can really taste the hops.
Yeah, for sure. I think I miss, like you, the landscape, because I grew up surrounded by mountains. And I had the opportunity to live in Southwest Virginia and sort of the Appalachian region, so we got that, but it was very different. It's a thing that you don't know you have until you're not surrounded by that type of landscape. So it feels like I miss having that hug. I miss being able to just look up onto a hill,
About 2 years ago, Claire and I and her friend Callie hiked the highest mountain in Louisiana, Mount Driscoll. Have you ever been there?
I have not.
Do you know how high it is?
I don't want to know because I feel like I will be underwhelmed.
I'm not going to tell you.
Okay,
that.
good. People can look that one up.
Yeah, they can.
And I miss food. I miss the food.
Well, I miss the food too, and I used to smuggle it back in my suitcase.
Yeah.
Now I really almost hesitate to tell you this. There's a number of websites, and the one I like is called Jolly Posh Foods, and I can get proper English sausages, and I can get English biscuits and crumpets and all the things. So my freezer's full of them.
Good. Yeah, I've started ordering stuff from New York. There are a couple of purveyors that sell roti and some of the foods that we like in Trinidad. So yeah, absolutely. All right. So before we get you out here, if you sat down with 18-year-old Helen, what would you tell her?
Oh boy.
Wait, when did you come to the U.S.?
I was 21.
You were 20. Okay, so 18 is you probably hadn't had designs on leaving.
No, it was not an intentional journey. I did not intend to emigrate. I came for grad school. So if you told 18-year-old Helen, she'd be like, you're crazy. If you told 21-year-old Helen that those two suitcases were going to have to last, for 35 years, because as we said, I mean, it wasn't an intentional decision. But I do look back and I think how stupid I was. Because here's what happened. I mean, I made that decision as a 21-year-old. It was a frivolous kind of decision. It didn't have a lot of thought behind it. And then it turned into, graduate schools and marriage and child and mortgage and all the things, right, that adults do. Yeah. And suddenly I'm a fully fledged adult who's been living in the United States, not my own country, for 20, 30, now close to 40 years.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny you say it was a frivolous decision. So I picked Morgan State University. I wouldn't trade the experience, but I picked Morgan State because I got a full scholarship there and my best friend was going there. And I was like, okay, cool, I'll just go. Like I didn't look at the academic rigor of the program or anything like that. I didn't do the things that I would tell my daughter to do now when I'm looking at a university.
That's exactly it. And when Claire went and did the masters in London, and I thought, oh, maybe she'll do what I did. But she is a very different person from me. I mean, she does think things through. She did take decisions seriously, so it was a very different thing. I am also confident that I can be happy in all kinds of situations and that I can make a success of various situations. And again, to tie this up, I think moving from one country to another does give you an adaptability and a confidence that I might not have had otherwise.
Yeah, that's well said. I think it's one of the things that why I encourage young people to travel and why I encourage people to try new things and to not be scared of the big failure, because it rarely ever turns into a big failure. It's just happenstance. Things happen, but it's, as you go through life, you just kind of take things as they come. And if you stumble, you pick yourself up and, you just move on and you figure it out, or the tides take you in one direction that you didn't expect and you just kind of go with it a little bit.
Well, right. And a lot of people are afraid of that. I remember when I was in grad school and I'd come from the UK and I'd been in grad school for 4 years and I'd made some good friends. And then I'm ready to move to Shreveport, Louisiana, which, as we know, I thought was on the Gulf Coast. But anyway, and I had a friend who'd lived in New England all his life and all his family was there. And he said to me, Helen, you're a rootless person. And he didn't mean it in a good way. And he was clearly sort of not scornful, but he couldn't understand why I was so ready to just pack up those two suitcases and move on to the next place. And he was, I felt a bit sorry for him because I thought he's not trapped, but a captive of his sense that you have to be not rootless, but rooted in a place. Right. And I reject that. I think the more rootless you are, the better.
Yeah, I like that. And I think that's a good place to end today. So, Helen, this has been a wonderful conversation. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
I am happy, and we've talked about some great things. I've learned some things about you I didn't know. I've made note of those.
Yeah.
And I'm very happy to be here. Thanks, Wendell.
All right, I appreciate it. And again, thank you. And up to Chelsea. I know that's your favorite Premier League team.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Okay, no, she's an Arsenal fan. All right, listen, folks, thank you for joining us today on the Freshwater Yankee podcast. My name is Wendell Riley, and we will see you soon. Freshwater Yankee was produced by David McMillan and Lauren Leon McMillan. Our associate producer is Jesse Stevenson Riley. Music was provided by Peter Sandy of Home Base Productions. And I am your host, Wendell Riley.